President Cyril Ramaphosa is today expected to officiate the repatriation and restitution homecoming ceremony for the remains of South African freedom fighters who lost their lives in Zambia and Zimbabwe during the apartheid era. The ceremony has already started. It's at Freedom Park. It's the heritage site. These are the live visuals that you're seeing. These, of course, are pre-blessings that we can see, very spiritual rituals, which we'll speak more to in a short while. On Wednesday, you'll remember that the South African government received the remains of 42 liberation fighters at Waterkloof Air Force Base in the presence of their families. To discuss the significance of the ceremony for struggle heroes, we're joined in studio once again. We spoke a little bit earlier, but it's great to have her back here again. A National Executive Committee of the ANC and Deputy Chair of the Archives and Heritage Subcommittee, that's Nqoqawe Mafu, and Cultural Analyst Professor Pitika Ntuli. It's so good again to have both of you here together with us. Professor, let me begin with you, because what we're witnessing here is very, very significant, and this is something that's taking place now. The remains have not as yet arrived at Freedom Park. We're still waiting for that procession, but this is happening now with the family in present. Perhaps you can talk us through the significance of this.
This is Freedom Park. And Freedom Park is a product of what the first Minister of Arts, Science and Culture introduced, the Arts and Culture Task Team, what was called ARCTEC. That was meant to outline the processes of how art and culture could to exist in society, in economy, in education, in everything. So when you look at this Isivivane, it goes back to the heart of real, true African spirituality, to appease the ancestors, so that the spirits of the people that are gone are returned.
Yeah.
But in order to understand that fully, is that in African culture, in Nguni culture, when a child is born, you don't cut the umbilical cord. You wait until it drops on its own. Where it drops, you pick it up, and then they are going to plant a tree to link you to the environment. Once you link it to the environment, then of course you are linked to your own totem. So the whole holistic, eco-viable world. So what's happening in here is that when a person dies from, you live in KwaZulu-Natal, you die in Limpopo, we have got to get a branch of a tree, spiritual tree, to go and fetch you there where you are and guide your spirit, narrating where you are traveling until you get back home, so that your spirit is at home. So you can therefore imagine then they got people who went in there to fight for their country, to fight for their own ancestors who are left out there. I think whatever happens, anybody can say the government has done a very, very powerful spiritual thing, right now.
Indeed.
I don't care anybody who
bring in their spirits back here. But I want you to elaborate on this tree, this image of a tree, for those of us that don't understand. What kind of tree are we talking about here?
There are various trees. There's one of the most famous ones is called Umlahlankosi. Umlahlankosi, that means that's the one you use also for burying, the king.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of variety, of them. So there are trees that are very spiritual in the same way as there are rocks that are spiritual and everything. We were accused of being animist, that everything is conscious. Today, quantum mechanics tells you what it is, and this spirituality also fits into everywhere. So that particular tree, then it is imbued where it grows, and the qualities and how that tree is very strong. It survives where others don't.
Yeah. Mafu, I know I can see you agreeing, and you're wanting to add your bit into this, but please talk to us about this, the whole spiritual aspect of this.
Thanks, Leanne. Look, the important thing, I think, at this moment is for us to, it actually takes us a little bit back, because remember, there's always this feeling that South Africa is becoming a lost generation. We are losing our culture. We are becoming more westernized. We are not, observing our cultural beliefs. And for me, this event today is actually it's taking us back. It's making us to remember. It reminds us how South Africans are cultural human beings. And what is happening now at Freedom Park, as Prof. Ntuli has explained, it's now the rituals that the South African people, the families, are trying to connect the spirits with the ancestors, with the living, to make sure that there is that synergy between the living. And you know, the African National Congress is actually excited about this because at the 55th National Conference, when we put together the subcommittee that deals with culture, the belief was that the ANC has actually forgot that culture is part of the liberation, is part of the revolution. And therefore, this now is something that takes the entire nation and makes the nation understand, especially the young ones, because the young ones don't understand these rituals. And therefore, now we are actually going a little bit backwards and saying, this is who we are, and it will never change. And Prof. Ntuli is saying, you know, Leanne, if somebody died in Joburg and the family wants to bury them in East London, where I come from, and they would then have this leaf or this tree that says, now they will be talking to say, we are taking you home now to where you belong, to your ancestors, to go and bury you, have a nice journey until you get there, so that when they leave with the car, the belief is that because they have spoken to the dead, therefore the trip will be incident-free.
Wow. That is so special. I'm loving these stories. So I also want to talk about a little bit of the significance of Freedom Park, because I think we take sometimes that area for granted. I mean, this was built specifically for a purpose like this. There's different areas to Freedom Park as well. But where we are right now is the Isivivane. Yeah. And this is a very special park because the concept is derived from the word viva, which means to come together in a group, also interpreted as commitment to solidarity and unity of purpose. And so what we're looking at now is that whole center of Isivivane is Lesaka and its circle of 11 stones, and it's a symbolic resting place for the spirits of those who played a part in the struggles that the history of South Africa has seen. Soil has been brought to the spot from all areas of South Africa where conflict has occurred, and it is deemed sacred ground after representatives of all faiths and church denominations took part in the cleansing, healing and return of the spirit ceremony. I just wanted to give South Africans more background of the area that this is taking place, to even give that significance even more. It just makes it even more special.
And it is. You've got about 11 stones.
Yeah.
When you think about these 11 stones here, you think about Stonehenge in the UK. You think it is Tswana where there is that megalith that is dated 75,000 years ago in Mpumalanga province, that links with Zimbabwe, that links with the pyramid of Giza. So getting all the stones from the different parts of the province, in other words, you are bringing the spirits of people across a language, culture, or anything, to bring them into this place that is a very sacred place. But again, when you look at the question of Isivivane, we always say that Bega each as Vivane. So that when you travel, you are going to find a pile of stones. Then you know that people who passed here, spiritually, the people who passed here, so you put your stone as well. Therefore, the place is safe. Then this place is spiritual. So what we actually see here, we see now institutionalized, a practice that people traditionally would do when they travel either through the veld and relating to nature.
Amazing. Oh, well, while we continue to watch these beautiful moments that are taking place live here, let's perhaps talk to the relationship, because I think it's an important time as well to reflect on the relationships that we had with neighboring countries. I mean, these, of course, the frontline states, a loose coalition of neighboring African states, Angola, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, and Tanzania. So, I mean, these are obviously, they were very integral partners with South Africa during that time. We are now celebrating the return of those from Zimbabwe and Zambia. Perhaps you want to talk to us about the significance of the relationships between the countries at that time.
Thanks, Lee. And look, the frontline states, as we used to call them, Prof would know better because he actually stayed in one of those countries during the exile years.
Many of them, but
yes.
most time in
It is Swaziland, you know,
And
Tanzania,
all of them.
Nigeria,
all of them.
Okay.
It's important to take this moment actually to pass some words of gratitude to them and to thank them for the role that they have played. They hosted and they housed South Africans at a very difficult time. And some of the countries paid the highest price for that because the then apartheid regime would even kill the citizens there for actually housing the liberation movements. We know that there are families that as this is happening right now, they are able to look back and remember that we lost our own people. They are not South Africans, but they identified with the struggle of South Africa. So we have to take this moment and actually appreciate and thank those countries and thank those governments for having had the courage and said, despite the regime at the time, we will help South Africa. Yeah. And therefore, when the immediate one, Swaziland, Lesotho, and Botswana, was bombarded with hand grenades and everything, like parcel bombs, and people had to move a little bit further to go to Angola, to Mozambique, because now it was becoming very difficult for them to be here, because it was very easy for South African government of the time to just go to Lesotho, to go to Botswana. So we have, as South Africans, take this moment and remember that this freedom, we did not fight it alone. Those SADC countries, those frontline states have actually helped us to be where we are today.
All right, I'm going to ask my guest. I'm going to come back to you. We need to quickly take a break, but we're going to continue this discussion because it's an important point and I think a very important message that we're sending out to South Africans this morning. Let's quickly take a break. We'll be back with you right after this.